The war room was silent, except for the soft hum of dying machines. Ambassador Sora Lynn stood before the great viewing window, her translucent skin flickering with pale blue light. This light was the language of her people, the Velith. Blue meant sadness. Blue meant fear. Right now, every Velith in the room glowed the same terrible color. Outside the window, the sky burned orange. Another city had fallen. The Kethra Dominion's warships hung in the atmosphere like angry metal wasps, raining fire upon everything below. Sora Lynn had watched 3 continents die in the past week. She had stopped counting the bodies after the number reached 1 billion. Ambassador, said her aide, a young Velith named Tarl, whose skin had not stopped flickering since the invasion began. The outer colonies have gone dark. We believe the Kethra have destroyed the communication relays. Sora Lynn closed her eyes. The outer colonies held 2 billion people. 2 billion souls, now silent. The Kethra did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They simply erased whatever stood in their path and moved forward. The Velith collective had existed for 12,000 years. They had built beautiful cities that floated among the clouds. They had created art that made other species weep with joy. They had developed medicines that cured diseases across 100 worlds. But they had never built weapons. They had never needed to. The galaxy had been at peace for so long that war seemed like a strange nightmare from ancient history. Now that nightmare had found them. How long until they reached the capital? Sora Lynn asked. 3 days, Tarl replied. Perhaps 4, if the planetary shield holds. It would not hold. They all knew this. The Kethra had broken through shields on every world they had attacked. Their weapons were designed for one purpose, destruction. And they were very, very good at their purpose. Sora Lynn turned to face the council. 12 beings sat around a curved table, representing the 7 species of the collective. Some were tall and thin like the Velith. Others were short and covered in fur. One was made entirely of living crystal. All of them wore the same expression of hopeless despair. We have sent messages to every allied system, said Counselor Veth, an elderly Velith whose light had faded to almost nothing. None will help. They say the Kethra are too powerful. They say intervention would mean their own destruction. The Galactic Council? Sora Lynn asked, though she already knew the answer. They've expressed deep concern, Veth replied bitterly. They are forming a committee to discuss possible responses. They estimate preliminary recommendations in 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months. The Velith would be extinct in 6 to 8 days. Sora Lynn walked slowly to the center of the room. Her mind raced through possibilities, each more desperate than the last. They could not fight. They could not run. They could not hide. Every option led to the same ending, death, except one. There is another choice, she said quietly. The council turned to look at her. Even in their despair, she saw curiosity in their eyes. The quarantine zone, Sora Lynn continued. Sector 7G, the Death World. The room went completely silent. The soft blue light of Velith's skin suddenly shifted to white. Pure white. The color of terror. You cannot be serious, Counselor Veth whispered. Earth, Sora Lynn said the word like a curse. The humans. The Galactic Accords forbid contact with Deathworld species, another counselor protested. It has been forbidden for 3,000 years. There are reasons for this law. I am aware of the reasons, Sora Lynn replied. She walked to a console and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above them. Images from ancient records, from the time before the quarantine. The council saw a world of chaos. Massive storms that covered entire continents. Earthquakes that split the ground open like wombs. Oceans full of creatures with too many teeth. And everywhere, the dominant species. Humans. Hairless apes with forward-facing eyes and hands built for gripping. For holding. For killing. Earth's gravity is 3 times our standard, Sarlin explained. Their atmosphere contains a gas called oxygen, which is highly toxic to most species. Their planet experiences extreme temperature variations, violent weather patterns, and constant geological instability. Yet humans did not merely survive this world. They conquered it. She changed the image. Now they saw humans hunting. Humans fighting. Humans building weapons from stone, then metal, then atoms themselves. They are a predator species, she continued. But unlike most predators, they did not stop when they reached the top of their food chain. They continued to evolve, to adapt, to improve their methods of destruction. They invented war as a form of recreation. They split the atom and used it to vaporize their own cities. They are, by every scientific measure, the most dangerous species ever documented. This is precisely why we must not contact them, Counselor Veth said. You would invite monsters to save us from monsters. The Kethra will kill us, Sarlin replied simply. The humans might kill us. One is certain death. The other is possible death. I choose possibility. She looked around the room at her colleagues, her friends, her people. We have nothing left to lose, she said. Our worlds are burning. Our children are dying. Our children are dying. If there is even the smallest chance that these humans will help us, we must take it. What is the alternative? We sit here and watch our species end? The debate lasted 3 hours. Some counselors wept. Some shouted in anger. One simply stood up and walked out, unable to face what they were about to do. In the end, the vote passed by a single margin. That night, Sarlin personally composed the message. She kept it simple. She had read that humans value directness. We are the Valith Collective. We are dying. An enemy called the Kethra Dominion is destroying our worlds. We cannot fight them. We have no weapons. We have no warriors. We have only our knowledge, our resources, and our desperate hope. We offer everything we have in exchange for your protection. Please help us, please. She transmitted the message toward a quarantine zone and waited. Days passed. The Kethra continued their advance. More cities fell. More people died. Sarlin began to think that no one had heard her cry for help. Or perhaps they had heard and simply did not care. Then, on the 17th day, a response arrived. The message was short. The signal was weak, distorted by distance and interference. But the words were clear. We heard you. We're coming. Sarlin read the message again and again. Her skin shifted to a color she could not control. Relief, hope, and something else. Something cold, because she had studied the humans. She knew what they were capable of. And she realized, with growing unease, that she had just invited the most terrifying species in the galaxy to her doorstep. She only hoped she had not made a terrible mistake. High Commander Zeth Volume stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and watched another world die. His 4 eyes reflected the orange glow of burning cities below. His mandibles clicked together in satisfaction. This was the 47th planet the Kethra Dominion had claimed in this campaign. The Valith were soft, weak. They fell like grass before a storm. The planetary capital will be within weapons range in 6 hours, reported his tactical officer. Shall the first prepare the orbital bombardment sequence? Not yet, Zeth Volume replied. Let them watch their final sunset. Let them understand that resistance is meaningless. The Kethra were not a cruel species by nature. They simply believed in efficiency. The universe was vast and filled with resources. Those resources belonged to whoever was strong enough to take them. The weak existed only to serve the strong. This was the natural order of things. ZETH, single quotes volume, had served the Dominion for 300 years. He had conquered 63 star systems. He had never lost a battle. His exoskeleton was covered in ceremonial scars, each one representing a victory. Soon, he would add another scar for the Valith campaign. His communications officer approached with a data tablet. "High Commander, our intelligence network has intercepted something unusual." Zeph Volume took the tablet and read the report. His mandibles stopped clicking. "The Valith sent a message to the quarantine zone," he said slowly. "To Earth." "Yes, High Commander." "And they received a response. The humans say they are coming." The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to look at their commander. Zeth Volume had heard stories about humans, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. They were the boogeyman that parents used to frighten misbehaving children. They were the monsters lurking in the dark spaces of the map. But Zeth Volume was a practical being. He did not believe in monsters. "Show me what we know about them," he commanded. The tactical display changed. Information scrolled across the screen. Earth, Sol System. Category 9 Death World. Population, approximately 12 billion. Technological level, advanced. Military capability, unknown, unknown. Zeph Volume repeated. "How can it be unknown? They have been in quarantine for 200 years, his intelligence officer explained. No species has had contact with them since the isolation treaty. We have no current information about their military strength." "Then we will assume the worst," Zeth Volume decided. "What is the worst-case scenario?" His officers looked at each other nervously. Finally, the intelligence officer spoke. "High Commander, the historical record suggests that humans are extremely aggressive. Before the quarantine, they were involved in numerous conflicts with other species. They never lost. Never. There are 17 documented encounters between human forces and alien species. In each case, the humans achieved total victory. The records describe tactics that our analysts find disturbing." Zeth Volume waved his claw dismissively. "The records are 2 centuries old. Whatever strength the humans once had, they have spent generations locked away from the galaxy. They have no empire, no allies, no experience in modern warfare. Meanwhile, the Dominion has grown more powerful every year." "But High Commander," the intelligence officer pressed, "the humans evolved on a death world. Their bodies are designed for extreme conditions. Their psychology is centered around conflict. They are built for war in ways we cannot fully understand." "So are we," Zeth Volume replied coldly. "The Kethra homeworld is a harsh place. We evolved under crushing pressure and extreme heat. We became the dominant species by being stronger and smarter than everything else. The humans are not special. They are simply another obstacle to be removed." He turned to face his officers directly. "We will accelerate the invasion timeline. The Valith capital falls tomorrow. By the time these humans arrive, there will be nothing left to save." His officers saluted and returned to their stations. Zeph Volume remained at the viewport, watching the world below continue to burn. He did not fear the humans. Fear was weakness, and Zeth Volume had never been weak. But something bothered him. Something in the intelligence report that he could not shake from his mind. The humans had responded to the Valith signal within hours. That meant they had been listening, watching, waiting. For 200 years, they had sat in their quarantine zone, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. What had they been doing all that time? Building, most likely. Preparing. For what? Zeth Volume pushed the thought aside. It did not matter. The Dominion had 3,000 warships in this sector alone. Their fleet was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Whatever the humans brought, it would not be enough. The next morning, The assault on Valith Prime began. The planetary shield buckled under the first wave of bombardment. Kethra landing craft descended through the atmosphere like metal rain. Ground forces poured into the streets of the capital city. The Valith had no soldiers, no weapons, nothing but their desperate will to survive. Thought it was not enough. High Commander Zethvolium watched the battle from orbit. His tactical display showed the city falling district by district. Valith civilians fled through the streets, their bioluminescent skin flashing in panic. Kethra soldiers moved through the chaos like machines, killing everything that moved. Resistance is minimal, his tactical officer reported. We estimate complete control within 12 hours. Zethvolium nodded with satisfaction. This was too easy. The Valith were pathetic. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost thought then his sensor officer screamed, thought it was not a dignified sound. It was a raw animal noise of pure terror. Zethvolium spun around to see the officer staring at his console with all four eyes wide. "High Commander," the officer said, his voice shaking. "Subspace is breaking." "Explain," Zethvolium demanded. "I cannot explain. The readings are impossible. Something is tearing through the dimensional barrier. Multiple contacts. Hundreds of contacts. No, thousands. The numbers keep climbing." Zethvolium strode to the sensor station and looked at the display himself. The screen showed the space around Valith Prime. Normally, it was empty except for his fleet. Now, it was filled with red dots. Enemy contacts. Each dot represented a ship emerging from subspace. The counter at the bottom of the screen spun faster and faster. 5,000. 10,000. 20,000. The number kept climbing. Ze to Zethvolium felt something he had not experienced in 300 years. His exoskeleton grew cold. His heart began to beat faster. His instincts, buried deep beneath centuries of civilized behavior, screamed at him to run. "High Commander," his communications officer said, her voice barely a whisper. "We are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the lead ship. Put it on screen." The display changed. Zethvolium found himself looking at a human face. She was old, this human. Her skin was lined with age. Her hair had turned gray. Metal implants gleamed at her temple, replacing parts of her skull with machinery. But her eyes were sharp and clear and filled with something that Zethvolium recognized. Hunger. "Kethra Dominion," the human said. She was smiling. Why was she smiling? "My name is Admiral Chun Weilin of the United Nations Space Navy. You have attacked a species under humanity's protection." "They were not under your protection," Zethvolium replied automatically. "There was no treaty, no agreement." "There is now," the Admiral said. "We decided about 3 weeks ago that we like the Valith. They asked nicely. You should try asking nicely sometime." Behind her, Zethvolium could see her bridge crew. They were laughing. Some were cheering. One was eating something from a container while watching the view screen. They were not afraid. "You cannot hope to defeat us," Zethvolium said, trying to maintain his composure. "We have 3,000 warships." The Admiral's smile grew wider. "I know," she said. "We brought 32,000. We wanted to make sure everyone got a turn." The transmission ended. Zethvolium stared at the empty screen. Around him, his officers were frozen in shock. On the sensor display, the human fleet continued to emerge from subspace. 32,000 ships. He had made a terrible mistake. High Commander Zethvolium watched his fleet die. The tactical display had turned almost entirely red. Each red marker represented a destroyed Kethra vessel. Each marker represented thousands of soldiers, years of construction, centuries of military tradition. All of it was burning in the cold void of space. Forward batteries have stopped responding. his tactical officer reported. His voice had lost all emotion. Shock had taken hold. Main power is failing. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. The Eternal Conquest shuddered as another human weapon found its mark. Emergency lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, Zeth heard screaming. How is this possible? He whispered that he had studied warfare his entire life. He had memorized the strategies of 100 campaigns. He had trained under the greatest commanders in Dominion history. None of it had prepared him for this. The humans did not fight like any species he had ever encountered. Other species fought for territory, for resources, for survival. They calculated risks and rewards. They retreated when the odds turned against them. They surrendered when defeat was certain. The humans fought like they enjoyed it. Their ships swooped through the battle with reckless aggression. They took hits that should have destroyed them and kept coming. They targeted enemy vessels, not with the cold precision of military strategy, but with something that looked almost like enthusiasm. One human captain had broadcast a message during the fighting. Dibs on the big one. Dibs. They were claiming enemy ships like children fighting over toys. And the weapons. Zeth had seen weapons designed to disable shields, to breach hulls, to neutralize enemy systems with minimum collateral damage. The human weapons were not designed for any of these purposes. They were designed simply to destroy. Completely. Absolutely. Forever. Railguns fired metal slugs at velocities that defied physics. Each impact released more energy than a nuclear bomb. Human missiles deployed clouds of self-replicating machines that ate through Kethra armor like acid. Energy weapons burned so hot that they turned solid metal into plasma. But the worst part, the part that would haunt Seth until his dying breath, was the boarding parties. When human marines entered Kethra ships, they did not use the surgical precision of military operations. They came in waves, wearing powered armor that made them twice the size of normal humans. They carried weapons in both hands. Some of them carried weapons between their teeth. And they charged directly into combat with sounds that the translators could not interpret. The Kethra were proud of their warriors. They were trained from birth for combat. They were strong and fast and deadly. The humans beat them with their fists. Zeth, single quotes volume, had watched security footage of a human marine. Her armor cracked and smoking, fighting hand-to-hand with 3 Kethra soldiers. She had killed all 3. Then she had picked up a piece of debris and used it to break down a door. Then she had continued fighting. She had been laughing. "High Commander," his communications officer said. "The Admiral is hailing us again." Zeth wanted to refuse. He wanted to die with dignity, like a true Kethra warrior. But he was still a commander. He still had responsibilities to his surviving crew. "Put her through," he said. Admiral Chen Wei-Lin appeared on his screen. Behind her, the human bridge crew was celebrating. Someone had brought out bottles of some kind of liquid and was pouring it for the others. The music continued to play. "Commander Zeth, the Admiral said. Her voice was almost kind. "You fought well. Your species has courage. But this battle is over. You have lost." "I know," Zeth replied. His mandibles clicked weakly. "You have destroyed us. Not all of you. Not yet." The Admiral leaned forward. "I have a proposition. Surrender now, and I will spare your remaining ships. Your crews will be taken prisoner and treated fairly. You personally will be allowed to send one final message to your homeworld before you are transferred to custody." "And if I refuse?" The Admiral shrugged. "Then we destroy the rest of your fleet and send the message ourselves. Either way, the Kethra Dominion learns what happened here today. The only question is whether any of you survive to tell the story." Zeth considered his options. There were no options. His fleet was shattered. His flagship was dying. His soldiers were broken in body and spirit. Why? He asked. Why did you come? The Veilith are nothing to you. They are weak. They cannot offer you anything of value. Why risk your ships and soldiers for strangers? Admiral Chun's expression changed. For the first time since the battle began, she looked serious. Because they asked, she said. Because for 200 years, every species in the galaxy has treated us like monsters. They quarantined us. They spread stories about us. They taught their children to fear us. And we understood. We knew why they were afraid. We knew what we were capable of. She paused, and something in her eyes shifted. But the Veilith looked at all of that fear, all of those warnings, and they still asked for our help. They believed that we could be more than monsters. They gave us a chance to prove that we were worth saving. The Admiral smiled again, but this time it was a different kind of smile. Softer. Almost sad. We're not here because we wanted to fight you, Commander. We're here because someone finally wanted us. Do you understand? After all those years alone, someone finally believed in us. Zeth did not understand. His species did not think in such terms. The Kethra valued strength, efficiency, victory. The concept of fighting for something as intangible as acceptance was foreign to him, but he recognized sincerity when he saw it. I surrender, he said. All surviving Kethra forces will stand down immediately. Thank you, Commander. The Admiral nodded to someone off-screen. We'll have medical teams on your ship within the hour. Your wounded will receive the same treatment as our own. The transmission ended. Zeth slumped in his command chair. Around him, his surviving officers moved in a daze, following procedures they had trained for but never expected to use. The great Kethra Dominion, conqueror of 63 systems, had been defeated in a single afternoon dot as human ships approached to begin rescue operations. Zeth composed his final message to the homeworld. He tried to find words that would explain what had happened, words that would warn his people about the danger they now faced. In the end, he could only write the truth. They are not what we expected. They are not cold killers. They are not mindless monsters. They are something far more dangerous. They fight because they enjoy fighting. They destroy because they are good at destruction. But they also heal because they want to heal. They save because they choose to save. He paused, his claws hovering over the console. They are chaos given form. They are compassion and violence wrapped together in ways that make no logical sense. And they have been building their strength in isolation for 200 years, with nothing to do but prepare for a war that might never come. He finished the message with a warning that he knew would be ignored. Do not attack them. Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to return, because they will come back. They enjoyed this. They will be looking for any excuse to do it again. He sent the message and waited for the humans to arrive. Outside his viewport, rescue ships moved through the wreckage. Human medics in bright orange suits floated between debris fields, searching for survivors. They saved Kethra soldiers alongside their own wounded. The monsters were showing mercy. Zeth did not understand anything anymore. Ambassador Sorelin had given up hope. She sat in the underground command bunker beneath the capital city, surrounded by the last surviving members of the Veilith government. Above them, the Kethra were winning. The planetary shield had failed hours ago. Enemy soldiers walked through streets that her people had, built over thousands of years. She had sent the message to Earth 17 days ago. 17 days of silence. 17 days of death. Perhaps the humans had changed their minds. Perhaps they had never intended to help at all. Perhaps the response had been some kind of joke. Then the lights flickered. What was that? Counselor Veth asked. The bunker shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Emergency lights activated, painting everything in harsh red. "Earthquake?" someone suggested. "No," said the sensor technician, staring at her console with wide eyes. "Something is happening in orbit. I am detecting massive energy signatures. Thousands of them." Sorlin rushed to the main display. The screen showed the space above their world. The Kethra fleet hung there, 3,000 warships in perfect formation. And then space itself seemed to tear apart. Rips appeared in the fabric of reality. Not the clean, controlled openings of normal, faster-than-light travel. These were violent ruptures, bleeding energy across every spectrum. Ships poured through the openings like water from a broken dam. Human ships. Sarlin had seen images of human technology in the ancient records. Those images had not prepared her for this. The human vessels were not beautiful. They were not elegant. They were brutal mountains of metal and weapons, covered in armor plating thick enough to survive atmospheric entry. Their hulls were scarred and dented from countless battles. Some ships were painted with images that made no sense to Sorlin. Skulls, flames, predatory animals with open mouths, and they were massive. The smallest human ships were larger than Kethra cruisers. The largest ones defied comprehension. One vessel at the center of the fleet was the size of a small moon. Its name was painted across its hull in letters that blazed with running lights. Un's manifest destiny. The sensor technician's voice was barely a whisper. "I count 32,000 vessels. 32,000. Against 3,000. Sorlin felt her skin shift through colors she could not control. Then the sound started. The humans were broadcasting on every open frequency. At first, Sorlin thought it was some kind of weapon. The noise was overwhelming. Rhythmic pounding. Screaming voices. Distorted instruments producing sounds that vibrated through her bones. "What is this?" Counselor Veth shouted over the noise. The bunker's translation system struggled to interpret the signals. Finally, words appeared on the screen. "Music," Sarlin read aloud. "They are playing music." It was unlike any music she had ever heard. Her people created soft, flowing melodies that mimicked the wind and water. This human music was violent, aggressive. It sounded like machinery grinding against machinery, like explosions set to a rhythm. Along with the music came other broadcasts. Video feeds from human ships showed crews dancing on their bridges. Soldiers checking weapons while grinning at cameras. Someone had painted messages on the interior walls of one vessel. Sorlin's S-translator rendered them as "road trip" and "are we there yet?" and finally something to do. The humans were not solemn. They were not grim. They were celebrating. A new transmission cut through the chaos. A single video feed, marked as priority. The face of an older human female appeared. She wore a dark uniform covered in medals and insignia. Her expression was calm, but her eyes sparkled with barely contained excitement. "This is Admiral Chun Wei-Lin of the United Nations Space Navy," she announced. "To the people of the Valeth Collective, we received your message. Sorry for the delay. We had to argue about who got to come, and everyone wanted in." She paused, and her smile grew wider. "We're here now. Nobody dies today except the ones who deserve it." The transmission shifted to show the Kethra fleet. 3,000 warships, now surrounded by 32,000 enemies. "To the Kethra Dominion," Admiral Chung continued. "You have attacked civilians. You have destroyed cities. You have killed billions of innocent people. We don't like that. We really don't like that." On the tactical display, Sarlin watched as the human fleet began to move. Ships spread out in formations that seemed random but moved with perfect coordination. The Kethra fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming just minutes ago, now looked like a small island surrounded by an endless ocean. "Here is what is going to happen," the Admiral said. "You are going to stop your attack immediately. You are going to surrender your vessels. You are going to submit to whatever judgment the Valith people decide you deserve. If you do this, some of you might survive." She leaned forward, and her voice dropped to something almost gentle. "Or you can fight. Please, fight. We've been waiting 200 years for this. We've been building ships and training soldiers and developing weapons while the rest of the galaxy pretended we didn't exist. Do you have any idea how boring that was? Do you have any idea how much we want to use all the things we built?" Behind her, a human crew member pumped his fist in the air and shouted something that the translator rendered as, "Let's go." The Admiral laughed. "We came here to help the Valith," she said. "But honestly, we also came here because someone finally gave us permission to fight. Someone finally asked us for help instead of running away screaming. The Valith believed in us when nobody else would. We owe them, and we pay our debts." The music grew louder. The human ships continued to move, encircling the Kethra fleet like predators surrounding prey. "So what's it going to be?" Admiral Chun asked. "Surrender or war?" On the Kethra command frequency, Sarlin heard High Commander Zethvol's response. His voice shook with rage and fear. "We are the Kethra Dominion. We do not surrender. All ships, open fire." Admiral Chun's smile became something terrifying. "Perfect," she said. "That's the answer we wanted." The human fleet opened fire. Sarlin watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. She had never seen war before. She had never wanted to see war. But she could not look away from this. The human weapons were not elegant. They did not disable or capture. They destroyed. Projectiles traveling at impossible speeds tore through Kethra armor like paper. Energy beams cut warships in half. Missiles that should have been intercepted somehow found their targets every time. The Kethra fought back. Their weapons struck human ships again and again. But the human vessels simply absorbed the damage. Their armor, forged on a world with crushing gravity, was too thick. Their shields, powered by reactors that burned hotter than stars, were too strong. One human ship took 17 direct hits and kept firing. Its crew broadcast a message during the assault. "Is that all you've got? My grandmother hits harder than that." The battle lasted 4 hours. By the end, the Kethra fleet was reduced to scattered wreckage floating in space. In the bunker, Sarlin wept. Her skin cycled through every color her species could produce. Relief, joy, horror, gratitude. She did not know what to feel. She only knew that her people would survive. The humans had come. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Valith Prime. Ambassador Sarlin stood before the Galactic Council, her translucent skin glowing with steady confidence. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 1,000 species. All of them were watching her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to fear to something that looked almost like hope. "You wanted to know about the humans," she said. "You wanted to understand what happened. I will tell you." The chamber fell silent. "When the Kethra invaded our worlds, we sent messages to everyone. We begged for help. We offered everything we had. And you all refused. You said the Kethra were too powerful. You said intervention was too dangerous. You said you were sorry, but there was nothing you could do." Sarlin let the words hang in the air. The humans said yes. She pressed a button on her console. Images appeared above the council chamber. Images of human ships arriving at Valith Prime. Images of the battle. Images of human medics treating Valith wounded. Images of human engineers helping rebuild destroyed cities. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand territory. They did not require us to sign treaties or make promises. They came because we asked. That is all. We asked for help, and they helped. A delegate from a nearby system raised a manipulator appendage. But they are Deathworlders. They are dangerous. The historical records show countless examples of human violence and aggression. Yes, Sorlin agreed. They are dangerous. They are capable of terrible violence. But they are also capable of extraordinary kindness. These two things exist together in them. They are not a simple species. She changed the images. Now the council saw humans walking through the streets of Valith cities. Human children playing with Valith children. Human doctors teaching Valith healers new medical techniques. Human artists creating works that combine both species' traditions. In the months since the battle, 50,000 humans have volunteered to help rebuild our world. They work alongside our people. They share meals with our families. They have learned our language and our customs. Some of them have started businesses. Some have fallen in love. A ripple of surprise passed through the council chamber. They are not monsters, Sorlin said. They are not saints either. They are complicated, contradictory beings who are capable of both tremendous destruction and tremendous compassion. They spent 200 years alone, knowing that the entire galaxy feared them, with nothing to do but build weapons and wait. And when we finally gave them a chance to be something other than the monsters you expected, they took it. She paused to let her words sink in. The quarantine is over. The humans are not going back into isolation. They are part of the galaxy now. The question is, what kind of relationship will you have with them? The council erupted in debate. Species that had never agreed on anything found themselves arguing about the same questions. Were the humans a threat or an opportunity? Should they be contained or embraced? Could any species that violent ever be trusted? Sorlin listened to the arguments for a while. Then she quietly left the chamber. Outside, she found Admiral Chen Wei-Lin waiting in the corridor. The Admiral wore civilian clothes now. She had retired from the military 3 months ago. Her cybernetic implants gleamed in the soft lighting. "How did it go?" the Admiral asked. "As expected," Sorlin replied. "They are afraid. They are confused. They will argue for weeks before reaching any decision." "And what decision do you think they'll reach?" Sorlin's skin flickered with amusement. "I think they will decide to be very, very polite to humans from now on." The Admiral laughed. It was a warm sound, nothing like the fierce joy she had shown during battle. "That's probably wise," she said. "We can be difficult when we feel unwelcome." They walked together through the station's corridors. Through viewports, they could see ships from dozens of species moving through space. Human vessels mixed among them now, no longer quarantined, no longer isolated. "I have been meaning to ask you something," Sorlin said. "Go ahead. When you received our message, you could have ignored it. You could have stayed safe in your quarantine zone. Why did you come?" Admiral Chun was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what it feels like to be alone?" she finally asked. "Not just alone in a room. Alone in a way that goes deeper. Alone because everyone is afraid of you. Alone because the universe has decided that you are too dangerous to exist alongside." Sorlin did not answer. She could not imagine such loneliness. "Humans are social creatures," the Admiral continued. "We need connection. We need to feel like we matter. We need to know that someone, somewhere, thinks we are worth something. For 200 years, no one gave us that. Every species looked at us and saw only the danger, only the violence, only the death." She stopped walking and turned to face Sorlin directly. "Then you sent your message. This tiny, fragile species facing destruction. You could have called anyone. You could have tried anything else. But you called us. You asked the monsters for help." Her eyes were shining with something that might have been tears. Do you understand what that meant to us? Someone believed that we could be heroes instead of villains. Someone thought we were worth asking. Someone gave us a chance to prove that we were more than our worst impulses. Sora Lynn reached out and placed her delicate hand against the Admiral's rough fingers. "You proved it," she said. "You came to save us when no one else would. You fought for people you had never met. You showed the galaxy what humans can be when someone believes in them." Admiral Chun smiled. This time, there was no hint of the warrior in her expression. She was just a tired old woman who had finally found something she had been searching for her entire life. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for asking." Far across the galaxy, in a small apartment on Earth, a young human child sat with her grandmother. The news was playing on a screen nearby. The child was asking questions. "Grandma, why were we locked up for so long?" The grandmother smiled and stroked the child's hair. "Because people were scared of us, sweetheart. But we're not scary." "No, we're not. But we can be. We have big feelings. We get angry. We fight. And for a long time, people thought that was all we were good for." The child thought about this. What changed? Someone asked us for help. The Valith. They were in trouble, and they needed someone strong. Everyone else was too afraid to fight for them. So they asked us, and we helped them? Yes, sweetheart. We helped them. And now everybody knows that being strong doesn't mean being scary. It means being able to protect the people who need protecting. The child nodded seriously. On the screen, images showed humans and Valith working together, building new cities where destroyed ones had stood. "I want to help people when I grow up," the child said. Her grandmother pulled her close. "I know you will, sweetheart. That's what humans do. When someone needs help, we answer. It's the best thing about us." Outside the window, the stars shone bright and endless. Somewhere among them, a galaxy was changing. Old fears were fading. New friendships were forming. The monsters had become heroes. And humanity, at long last, had found its place among the stars. Not as conquerors. Not as destroyers. But as protectors. As friends. As the species that answered when no one else would. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the universe was better for it.